All right, welcome back to another episode of the Ekkocast. You guys have been enjoying them. I've been enjoying them. We've got lots of athletes in here to talk. And today we have a special guest, and that is Jacob Oesthreicher. I can never remember which it is.
It's Oesthreicher.
Oesthreicher. Okay, yeah, I get made fun of on my platform all the time. We started working together a few months ago, and I always pronounce it wrong, so I get made fun of for it constantly. But Jacob, he's had a pretty, I guess you could call it, meteoric rise up through the ranks. He's only 20 years old. The other day I was looking at his account and he had 330,000, and then he just told me this morning that he has 400,000 followers. So if you know anything about social media growth rates, that's very, very good considering it's only been a few weeks. So he's been rising up through the ranks. People really appreciate his content. I really appreciate his content because he keeps things simple.
Thanks.
And in the world today of fitness, muscle building, all of that, we need a little bit more of simple, effective muscle building tips. And he's been giving them ad nauseum for the last year. It's been really, really cool to see. But I wanted to talk to him about a little bit more, I don't want to say controversial, but some interesting topics that aren't necessarily talked about enough. And he's 20. We just started about 4 months ago. He is actually on his first ever PED cycle. Now, we're not going to go into what he's using or how much, anything like that, but we wanted to talk a little bit about ramifications, possible issues that people can run into, warnings, but we just want to make sure that we're very, very open and transparent about that through the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's start a little bit more broad first. Overall, your timeline compared to other people has been very, very accelerated. Obviously, you did not have a following 2 years ago.
No.
Now you have a massive following. So if you were to take a look back with everything as far as your sponsorships, PEDs, like bodybuilding, like all this, where did you actually think that you would be 5 years ago versus where you are now?
Yeah, when it came down to me 5 years ago, I was playing Fortnite all day long. It was during COVID. I hadn't even started lifting yet. Never touched a weight. Only thing I was touching was the keyboard and the mouse. And I was doing that probably 10 to 12 hours a day. I think at my best, I was like 125th in Fortnite, competitive Fortnite in the East Coast.
For all you non-gamers, that is incredibly impressive.
And that was all I did all day. In terms of what I saw myself doing, I had no idea. My parents were getting on me about it a bunch. I didn't know what I was doing. I made some money from the game. I mean, made a couple $1,000. I was like, you know what? Like,
Hey, 15, not bad.
Yeah, it helped me buy my first car. And then I was like, yeah, I have no idea what I want to do with my life, though. And I was like not taking high school particularly serious to any extent until later on in high school, before I like kind of figured my life out a little bit more. But yeah, 5 years ago today, I had no idea where I thought my life was going to go.
Interesting. Okay, so you said something in there that I want to hone in on, because you said you weren't taking high school seriously.
No.
But when we talked earlier, you were talking about how seriously you did take something like Fortnite.
Yes.
So as far as your overall mentality towards things, do you think discipline is something that you've kind of had to develop over time, or do you think that you were always disciplined just in specific areas?
I think that's what it is, and what it comes down to is that I was more disciplined in specific areas, and I'm a kind of all or nothing guy when it comes to literally anything. So I have a very difficult time balancing anything. I'm either all in or I'm all out. So when it came to something like Fortnite, for example, I'm sitting there all day, like 10, 12-hour days. I'm missing homework assignments. I'm not showing up to class on time, all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I just want to be really, really good at Fortnite. But I was incredibly disciplined when it came to Fortnite, which is bizarre. And that was before. Now thinking back on it, I didn't even think it was a discipline, but I was waking up at like 7 in the morning every single morning, like doing aim training, doing building, like all of this stuff. I was writing down a huge notebook that I had of just going over like what I could do differently. And this kind of discipline that I put into a game, I didn't realize it was discipline because I was just enjoying it so much, but I showed up literally every single day for years, working like 12 hours a day on my craft.
Sure.
But yeah, just implementing that into other aspects of my life as I've gotten, a little older has been definitely, I feel like it came from Fortnite.
Right. No, that's actually interesting because that's something I've found has happened with a lot of different influencers that I've talked to who have come up very quickly. Is a lot of us, myself included, have been people that have always had fixations. Right? They get into something and then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the best.
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to be the best in this area. And then if it doesn't necessarily work out in that area or they move on to something else, then they have something else that they're fixated on. I mean, obviously, with my background, people call me like they use the word tism with me all the time because that's kind of my overall mentality towards things too. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be all in on it. You guys don't know this, but like I got really into cup stacking when I was younger. Like there would just be these random things that I would get super, super obsessive over. I'm going to be the absolute best. And then I would find something else. And ultimately for me, it just landed on fitness, landed on bodybuilding, nutrition. And I feel like that's kind of the same situation for you.
Yeah, 100%. Because even for me, when I was really young, I got really into doing Lego stop motion. I could not stop doing it. I would take I had a real camera set up. I had a huge tripod. I would do it for hours every single day. I think I had like 5,000 followers as like an 11-year-old just posting my Lego photos in Lego stop motion. And that was all I could think about. So yeah, when it comes to just the hyperfixation thing, that's always, I'm always all in or I'm all out.
That's super, super interesting. Yeah. No, I've had people before who have asked me about cultivating discipline, trying to figure things out. And it's always been a tough conversation for me because of the fact that for me, a lot of it is I get really, really into something. When I get really, really into something, the discipline comes as a byproduct of that rather than it being, I'm disciplined, therefore I'm going to do something that I'm not interested in doing because I get more interested, the more into it I get. And it kind of turns into a bit of a snowball. And then it's like, now we end up where we are today, where it's like everything is revolving around that thing.
Yeah, it's insane.
All right, let's get a little more granular because obviously you're 20. You started into your first ever PED cycle not too long ago, and that it can be a very contentious topic.
Absolutely.
So I just want to ask you, do you think that most people understand the trade-offs when it comes to performance enhancers, or is it something that people are very naive about?
I think it's definitely something people are very naive about. I think a lot of people are just looking for the next jump. They're looking for instant gratification in a sport and a hobby, if that's what you want to call it, that is the complete opposite. The gym is something that you need to work at for years and years and years and have all of these different variables locked in before you start to see like real progress. And people think that doing PEDs is just going to be like an instant jump. Like it's going to just change just like that. Everything's going to change. And that kind of aspect, and they don't even think about the negative side effects when it comes to it. Everything is going to have a trade-off. If you're going to be building muscle fast, you're going to be having things. You got to worry about what's going to happen with your mentality, what's going to happen with your actual body itself. There's always going to be risks when it comes to just anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you say overall, have you noticed anything specifically that's been and I know I'm not trying to glorify things by any means where it's like, oh no, I've not noticed any. Have there been any side effects that you've noticed specifically in the last few months?
In terms of like negative side effects?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really haven't had a particular lot. I've kind of responded to it decently well. I would say though, I've had some like acne come up even, like I'll be pretty open about that. That's pretty annoying just on my arms. And overall, maybe I feel a little bit more angsty at times.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Otherwise, not really, no.
Okay. And I think sometimes what happens is when people don't notice immediate side effects, then their automatic conclusion is there are none.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I don't want anybody who hears this conversation to walk away thinking, where it's like, oh, okay, so he's not necessarily noticing negative side effects, so that means there's no damage ever being done. Not the case. I shouldn't say I like to, this is an analogy I've heard before, where people say, if you're racing high performance sports cars, it's like at the end of the day, yes, there are ways to make it safer, but it's never inherently safe.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure that anybody who hears, oh, he's 20 years old, he's in the fitness industry, he's doing this, It's like, this is what's going to take him to the next level. Yes, it will be an aid in that, but a lot of other variables were in place before he ever made this decision.
Yeah. And I mean, I also have guidance by my coach, Mr. TNF here, which is 100% helping. You know, if a lot of people just go into it, they don't even think about anything. They're just trying to do everything on their own, which is not how it should work at all. They don't think about blood work. They don't have anyone looking over that for them. And that always rubs me the wrong way completely. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? This is a health risk you're taking. And you're just trying to fly like right into doing it, which is like, obviously that's going to be scary if you're not even thinking about any kind of things. And you don't have a coach, you don't have anyone looking anything over. And I've also been literally from the day I started, I've been tracking my calories. Like a lot of people, and sleeping 8 hours a night and trying to learn everything I can. It's been 4.5 years of that. And people are trying to go into this after training for like 6 months and they're under the age of like 18. You know, you're like 14. You're not even.
That's an entire other conversation. I remember there was a conversation I had with a kid. I went out to Indiana to visit one of the other guys from Echo.
Oh, really?
And it was just randomly, some kids came up to me. They started talking to me. I assumed these kids were like 18 years old or so. They looked a little bit older.
Yeah.
And then the kid starts talking about his plans for PED usage and everything. And I just looked at him and I'm like, okay, like you look young, but maybe old. And I'm like, how old are you? He said, I'm 14. He said, and I'm planning on hopping on like in a couple months. He said, I know I want to be a bodybuilder. That's what I want to be for the rest of my life. And the question I asked him at that point was something that I hope stuck with him. I said, okay, how long have you known that? And he was like, he's like, I don't know, like this last year. I'm like, okay, well, what did you want to be 4 years ago? Because he's 14, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to be an astronaut. I'm like, you don't understand that the decision you're making right now could impact for the rest of your life. And you think you know what you want to be and what you want to do until you've put together a ton of undeniable proof and evidence of that is going to be you and that is what you want to do. And you're also fully physically developed.
Yeah.
That shouldn't even be something that's on the table.
I couldn't agree more.
No, but and I've always said this as well, is you're talking about the fact that I'm like helping you in coaching this stuff, which is always a good thing, right? If you're ever looking to get into this area, make sure you have a good coach. Even me, I've always said, if I were to start taking stuff, I would still get a coach.
Yeah.
Just because you always want to make sure that you have good, solid eyes that you can trust in the background. That way you're not making stupid decisions for yourself. So even if you feel like you already understand the risks, consequences, it's always going to be better if you have somebody else to kind of, because human nature, we're going to take risks where we shouldn't. Have somebody. I had a conversation with my clients the other day. He said, I asked him how long he'd been on for, and he was at around, I think, 16 to 20 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, so we need to get into a health phase.
Yep.
Right. And he was like, well, no. I want to compete in this show. Therefore, like, I'm just going to keep going all the way up to this show. And I said to him at that point, I said, no, you're going to come off. And he pushed back and he argued with me. And I said, I'm not going to coach you.
Yeah.
I said, if you tell me that you will not take a health phase seriously, then that is not something I want to be wrapped up in at all.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the first thing that comes with us working together is not the results on the stage in 6 or 7 months from now.
Yeah.
It's how can we make sure you're being as healthy as you possibly can through the process.
Yeah. And that's something that people overlook, especially when you're in it, right? And you're seeing all this progress really quick. And it's just like kind of night and day. You're progressing like every single session. You're going crazy. It could be really easy, especially if you don't have another set of eyes and your blood work looks good and all this stuff. You're like, okay, well, let's come on.
Well, that was one of the things he tried to point me to. He said, my blood work looks pretty good right now. And I said, yes, but this is such a new area and there's so many things that we're still figuring out that, yes, it does help me to see that your blood work is good. But at the same time, there could be something off that we just don't know about yet. And it's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
Now, just going off of you talking about progressing quickly and stuff like that, what would you say, was there anything that when you started taking that surprised you more, or was it just more so you were kind of expecting those results already and they just happened?
I'm not going to lie. In terms of the progressive overload, I was not expecting to get as strong as I did, like as quick. On this like one hack squat, for example, this was in like August. I was doing like maybe 4 plates and a 25 on this hack squat. I'm doing like 7.25 now
Jeez.
on this same one. And it's just like, whoa, like when did this happen? You know, it's a light hack squat, so I'm not going to say it's like,
Oh
insane,
yes,
but
it's not the Cybex.
no, but yeah, it's a lighter hack squat, but still it's like, that's a lot of difference in not too long.
Right. Well, it was interesting because the other day I got into it with another creator who said that PEDs are a separate stimulus from training, which is true, right? There is a level to which you can grow off of just PEDs themselves, even if there's no training involved. We've seen this in multiple studies, but his thing was they're completely separate. And that there's going to be no actual, like, there's no synergistic effect. It's just you have your anabolics and then you have your training. And based off of everything I have seen, both with the athletes I've worked with, the people that I've watched over time, I don't see that being the case. I just don't think that's even possible.
Not at all.
No, because when you take a look at it, the main argument that I brought up when I was talking with him was, okay, so let's say that's the case. Let's say that the anabolics are completely separate from anything you do in the gym. The best natural athletes in the world, when they get shredded, when they get on stage, are maybe up to 200 pounds, right? That's kind of what we're looking at. The best enhanced, we're looking at getting all the way up into the 290s.
Yeah.
So that would mean that those people, let's say a Ronnie Coleman, he's 150 pounds as a natural without training. He would be able to get to 240 to 250 pounds shredded with 0 time in the gym. And I just don't see that being possible.
There's no way. And even in my own experience, just little tweaks that we've made have just, you can see a very clear difference. Just like even my SLDLs, for example, and my erectors, if it was just a completely different stimulus as a whole and they weren't correlated in a sense, that wouldn't have happened. You know, there's a clear difference in like the thickness of my back when I got really strong at doing an SLDL first in the session.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that there is an aspect to which, yes, the hormonal involvement can cause some level of fiber growth without training.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be limited.
Yeah,
and it's going to need to be augmented by the training.
Definitely.
Now, obviously, we don't have a 40-year-long study on an athlete trying this both with and without.
Yeah,
but it'd be very, very difficult for me to see that as even being a possibility. Now, one thing I did want to ask is obviously things in the gym can get a little bit easier. You're going to feel like more aggression. You're going to feel like a little bit of a boost, obviously.
Yeah, totally.
Did anything get harder when you hopped on?
I think it can get harder.
It could be mental or physical.
I don't think so.
No?
No. Honestly.
So not even, because I do remember you talking about the fact that you were like pretty hungry.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
great. I am starving all day long. Like, I don't know the last time that I've eaten a meal, and I'll have these huge meals. Like, even I'll have like 750 grams of potatoes that I cut up, and I'll have like 250 grams of 93.7 beef, and I'll throw cheese on it, sugar-free barbecue sauce, and I finish it, and I'm like, I could have another one of those bowls easily. That is a great point, but yeah, easily the hunger, like all day, just because I'm growing so much, I am incredibly hungry, and it is definitely, that is the hardest thing that I've had to deal with. I've never been a person who's dealt with like food noise or cravings before until I actually, hopped on, which is kind of interesting. Never ever did I even consider like going off plan, going off diet, and now I'm like looking at cookies, and I'm like,
you're watching the 20,000 calorie cheat days on YouTube. You're like, that looks amazing.
Yeah, and it's like I'm literally in the off season right now, and I'm eating 3,000 calories a day, and I'm still feeling this hungry. It's like, jeez,
Yeah. One of the things that I have tended to notice with people, especially people who are a little bit more naive and haven't hopped on or haven't like used stuff before, when they start using, a lot of times their weight will blow up very fast, and they assume that it's all muscle. And by the time they figure out that their appetite ramped up higher than their actual muscle building capability, by that point they're already 30%, 35% body fat.
I know, and I'm so glad that you're my coach too, because if you weren't, I think I would be eating 4,000 calories a day right now and be going like crazy. And then if I went into prep at, a way higher body fat percentage, now you just have to, whole process is way longer. It's not something I'm interested in doing.
And that's one of those things that you figure out over time. It's like you can take, and yes, you can try and like eat your way to more additional growth.
Yeah.
But it comes to a point where it's no longer going to have returns. Because I've seen people that's like, oh, you need to eat big to get big. You need to eat big enough to get big.
Yes.
You don't need to take and go way over. And if you do, it is going to severely limit, or not even limit, but it's going to make your preps significantly more difficult.
Yeah.
I remember my last show prep, I pushed things a little bit in terms of eating to see what I could do in the off season. And the process of prepping was so much more miserable than it had to be. I just had so much more fat to lose. And it was like, okay, what I thought was going to take 10 weeks ended up taking 20. And it's just the mental strain, the physical strain, just not worth it. Keeping things a little bit tighter. Even if, let's say it stopped you from gaining an extra pound of muscle. That extra pound of muscle that you didn't put on because you didn't eat crazy over is not going to be worth that additional 5 weeks that you're going to need to get stuff off.
And everyone wants to just eat more in general. Like, dude, you don't need to be eating. First of all, it should mainly be coming from carb sources too, right? And a lot of people just like to overeat on everything. And it's like, it's really not giving you a whole lot of benefit here for what you're getting. And I just feel like a lot of people just want to eat and they use being in a bulk. I just made a video on this the other day, actually. They use being in a bulk as an excuse.
Oh, absolutely.
To just be like, okay, I'm in a bulk. Let me just eat whatever I want. And that whole mentality is really detrimental just from a discipline standpoint, even from a muscle building standpoint, because if you put on all of this body fat and now you have to be in a deficit for significantly longer than you would have been otherwise, you're just limiting the capacity that you could have been putting on muscle because it took you so much longer to be in a deficit. And like because you got so fat.
Yeah, 100%. I remember there was a very specific point, and this was the turning point for me mentally where I realized that I was not doing things right, was I was bulking. And it got to the point where I couldn't stomach quality food. Right. It got to the point where it was like the only things that I could find myself eating and wanting to eat were ultra processed, highly sugary foods that I'm like, okay, if this is the only food that I'm able to put down, I'm like, then I am way too far above what I actually need in order to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. And I remember I made myself up waffles with peanut butter and maple syrup. And I remember getting halfway through it and being like, I don't even want to eat this. I'm like, okay, if I can't bring myself to eat that, which to me was the most delectable food in the world. Like if I can't bring myself to eat that, then I am way overshooting what I need to. And the scale, the mirror, everything was reflecting that I was way overshooting things. I just didn't want to listen to it.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. This was around the time where Sam Sulek was telling everyone to do the, if you're not 200 pounds, I'm like 6'1". I'm not 200 pounds. What is wrong with me? And I'd been training for like 2 years. I think this was like around that same time frame. And I got to like 215 pounds with not a whole lot of muscle mass. And I just looked awful. It was like I was going to Steak and Shake all the time, having these milkshakes. I was like, Sam Sulek's doing it. He's getting huge.
Right.
And then I was like, looked at myself. And I was like, whoa. I looked at myself then, and I looked at myself before I had come to college. This was like my first semester. And I was like, oh my God, I just put on way too much body fat. I was 180 something pounds coming in, and now I'm 215. I look awful. I even looked bigger when I was like at that state when I first came into college. And I just felt awful. My skin got really, really bad.
Yeah.
That was the main thing that I noticed. It was like actually horrendous. Like I couldn't even believe how bad my skin got. That's an underrated side effect of having a poor diet as is.
Yep. And when you get to that stage, at least for myself, what I found was I could always find a way to justify it, where it was, okay, if I turn this way and I angle this way and I'm in this, I can still see my abs.
Yep.
I can still see, they might've been faint, but it's like, I can still see them.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm not doing anything irresponsible, but no, it's I think what's happened is there's been those kind of dreamer bulks where people have realized that they don't need to do that. But then what's happened is you've had people push so far the opposite way where now you see people who are 150 pounds, barely trained in the gym. They're like, oh, well, I'll just maintain.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, you have to get your terminology correct if you're going to understand what people say when they say you can maximize muscle growth at maintenance. When they say that you can maximize muscle growth at maintenance, there's been two different conversations happening that have gone past each other. And you have one side, which is the bro lifters, bro science people. What they're saying is, okay, well, you obviously have to eat enough food in order to get growth to happen because you need to gain weight. You can't be 150 pounds shredded you can't be 150 pounds already lean and then become 190 pounds lean without putting on weight. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
But then what they have the other side saying is, okay, well, our definition of maintenance includes the muscle that's being built through the process. It's like, so what you're having is you're having two people talking past each other and they're not actually understanding what the other is saying.
Yeah.
So my overall take on it I shouldn't say always, but like my overall take on it is figure out approximately what is a reasonable rate of muscle growth and try and match that on the scale.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody this is the most practical takeaway that I could ever give to people who are trying to figure out, okay, how do I know how much I want to eat? You have to be tracking your weight consistently, your calories consistently to understand what your overall rate of gain, loss, or maintaining your weight is. And then let's say you're in your first 2 years of lifting, okay? First 2 years of lifting, you're happy with your current body fat levels. You're 150 pounds. What could you possibly get to in 2 years in terms of muscle mass? Maybe like 20 to 30 pounds if you're in your first 2 years, right? Obviously, past that point, it slows down drastically. So you going from 150 to 170 over the course of a year or two can make sense. But me, being already kind of further along in my career, trying to gain 20 pounds in a year makes absolutely no sense. I just can't support that rate of muscle growth. Yeah. But no, it's a very, I would love to at some point do like a full breakdown of the bulking discussion.
Yeah.
Because that's one that it keeps kind of going up and then going down. And right now it seems like a lot of people are talking about it. So we'll definitely do a full discussion on that at some point. But for now, let's keep things a little bit more to what we were talking about. All right. Do you think PEDs reveal discipline or replace it? Because you have people on both sides of the equation.
Absolutely reveal it. You see so many guys, and I think it depends on the type of person you are as well. A lot of people are going to go and they're going to hop on PEDs, and they're going to look pretty decent, even though they don't take their diet particularly serious. But if you actually want to get the most out of it, and you're the type of guy who's like myself, who's insanely anal about everything when it comes to tracking calories and sleeping and all of this stuff, I think it can really reveal it. Because now the way I kind of look at it is I've taken this risk. I've done something that is not completely normal, especially for someone my age, and I want to go and do bodybuilding as a whole. And if I go and do this and I don't put my 100% all into it, it's like, what am I even doing it for? Mm-hmm. You know, I want to get the most humanly possible that I can out of it. And yes, it's obviously going to be an enhancement. That's, you know, it's a performance enhancer.
Sure.
But if you still do everything wrong, like if you're not training correctly, you're not dieting correctly, and a lot of people will see like, oh, but Tom Platz or one of these guys did this. When you really look at those guys and the way they trained, number one, they trained extremely intense. Like they had all of these different variables in place. Like all those guys had perfect eating. And a lot of people don't think of that. And it does help. It does help, of course. And I'm not taking that away, but I really do think that when you go and you take the risk, a lot of people, it makes you more motivated, and it reveals the discipline. Like, okay, now you have to check in even on your blood work. You have to be more consistent with all of these different things to get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the main issues that we run into is you'll see people point out the best, right? The best of the best. And they'll say, oh, well, I would look like that if I took stuff. And the biggest issue that you run into is they don't realize that their buddy who goes to the gym like once or twice a week is also dabbling with stuff.
Yeah.
And they just don't realize it because it's never crossed their mind, because they don't look at them and say, oh, you're muscular, you're shredded. And there are a lot of people using stuff that you would never realize.
Never would realize. And I've talked to so many people, just, you know, they'll come up to me, and especially since I've been growing the last few months, I've had some people come up to me and be like, dude, you're looking way bigger the last few months, just in the gym, like, older guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll tell me, they're like, oh yeah, I'm also. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And he's, yeah, since I've been like 25, like, that's very interesting. I would love to see how your eating and actual everything looks on a day to day, because it's like, whoa,
I remember it was a huge wake up call for me. This was a few years back. I was working with a guy who was a little bit overweight, but we were getting him healthier. He was losing fat. We were in the gym, and he said to me, dude, like I've never seen muscular progress like this before. And I was shocked because I already knew, this guy had told me that he had been on a pretty large cycle when he was in his early 20s. And I was like, really, even compared to that? And he said, I had no clue what I was doing. He said, I was taking the stuff. He said, but my diet was terrible. My sleep schedule was awful. My gym sessions were just kind of whatever. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, because who's now finding that naturally, obviously not lifetime natural, but like naturally he was putting on more muscle than when he was just being a bum on a cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so shocking to me. Like, sure, even if you do everything wrong and you take PEDs, you might look pretty decent. You're going to look better than a natural guy who does, obviously everything wrong. But it's just like to the extent where it's like, you like really, like, if you really aren't locked in on it, you're not going to get nearly as much out of it as you think. And when you get these comments or something like, oh yeah, like bro's like this big and has only been doing, like, come on, dude, it's not completely a magic pill.
Yeah. I think it's always funny when you see guys who have truly accomplished a lot who are using performance enhancers, and you'll see people make those comments, and then they'll shut those people up by very quickly being like, "Hey, this is where I was as a natural."
Yeah.
And they look sick.
Oh my god, they look insane.
And they look
every
great.
Time.
Yeah,
every time
and it's like they're like, "Yeah, this is what I looked like before my first cycle," and then people just don't know what to say because they're like, "Oh, well, I assumed everything came from your use."
Yeah.
All right. Now, just to kind of close out this overall segment on PED usage, obviously you have a pretty young audience. So how do you go about balancing the ideas of safety? What do you decide to and not talk about? How do you go about dealing with it, especially if younger people who look up to you are thinking, okay, maybe this might be something I want to do?
Yeah, and younger people who are watching this potentially, please do not even consider it unless you've been training for years and years and years and years, and you are, okay, not even going to say that, because you need to understand you need to be training for years. You need to have all these protocols in place before and hiring someone beforehand, because it can actually seriously affect your health. And people don't understand that, especially when you're under the age of 18, you're not actually developed. Like, it scares me genuinely that people go and they think that this is like the next step for them. And I want, like, anyone who would be like watching this, I would want there to be a distinction between what I'm doing and like what I would tell someone else to do that is of that age. Because I think regardless of having a social media platform, I've always really liked bodybuilding. I've always really liked the sport as a whole. I think I would have done it anyway, just to try and see how far I could go. Because we talked about it earlier, the hyperfixation stuff. It's like, this has always been like kind of a thing for me that I'm like, okay, I really want to do this. And taking it to that next level, that's where I felt like I should go, because if I'm going to do it, I want to see if I can like be the best. I want to see how far I can really take it. Right. And PEDs level the playing field in that area, and really just balancing it as a whole with my audience. I don't discuss anything when it comes to dosages, because again, I don't want people to go and copy it. And that's like the scariest thing to me is thinking that people are going to do that. But yeah, definitely having a younger audience with it is tough, but I do still want it to be inspiring to the fact to, yes, I am on like performance enhancers, but I'm also putting in the work like in every single other aspect. And that's what you should really take out of it. It's not the performance enhancers. Like, obviously they're going to play a part. That's the way it works. Right. But it's, I'm still getting everything done. I'm still extremely, extremely locked in. Like, I pretty much never go off diet. I'm always hitting my calories every single day. My sleep is always locked in. I'm always drinking my gallon of water every single day. And consistently hitting these markers is what I'd want you to take away from, just everything in general,
Right. And that's one of the things that I try to make clear to every single person that I work with, is if we're looking at performance enhancers, they should not be viewed as a replacement for anything. You should have your diet, your recovery, your blood work, your sleep, all of those habits, your stress management, all of those things should be taken care of. And the PEDs should essentially be a cherry on top in order to help, like quite literally as the word suggests, enhance your physique. Not something that should be placed in place of any of those other quality habits.
Absolutely.
It's funny that you mentioned the you said something along the lines of if social media wasn't around, you probably, because I was actually going to ask you about that. I was going to ask, okay, so I obviously know you like bodybuilding, but do you think that social media disappears tomorrow? There's no aspect to it. Would it still be something that you would be interested in pursuing regardless?
Totally. I would totally still do it. I think the thing that makes me so interested in doing it in the first place is just the overall discipline aspect of it. There is no other sport in the world where you have to be completely locked in, completely dialed 24 hours of the day. You'll see even if people bring up like, oh, but what about the NFL athletes? Like, these guys are eating candy and they're not like taking their sleep extremely serious. Like, they're not doing every single thing right? And it's not like if their diet isn't completely locked in year round and they go on the field, they're not going to perform, right? But if your diet isn't locked in, your sleep isn't locked in, you step on the stage, you're just not going to perform. That's just the way it works. And that aspect that it's just like, I need to work incredibly hard year round for one like goal just really fires me up. Even talking about it, I'm like fired up talking about it because I think it's just awesome.
Well, I was gonna save this question for a little bit later, but you're kind of already moving into that territory. So I gotta ask your personal opinion, because I know there are many opinions on this. Bodybuilding, sport or beauty pageant?
I think it's a little bit of both.
I agree.
To be honest. I think that it is such a, I mean, I haven't gone through anything yet, so I'm not going to speak out of experience, but from what I've heard and the people I've spoken to, like prep is one of the hardest things you'll ever do mentally. And that aspect of it, I feel like it's kind of, and you're going and you're competing against guys who have also gone through this same struggle. They've also been training year round for this like one kind of goal and destination. And that feels like a sport to me. You're competitively competing. You're just competing against other people. And that feels like a sport. But you are going in front of a stage with a tan and doing all these things. And your muscles need to look prettier than the other guys. So it is a beauty pageant to an extent. But it's a beauty pageant that takes a hell of a lot of grit.
I agree. Everybody that I've ever talked to about this who's been vehemently against even using the term sport for it, I've asked them, okay, well, what's the definition? And definitionally, every single time you go into it, it fits under the heading. But what happens is it's like because they don't view it as a physical endeavor, they view it as just showing what you've already done. It's always a funny one, but I do it more so for the laughs than anything else. Argue with people about this, whatever you want to call it, the amount of discipline that it takes. And every single person that I've ever talked to who's played sports and also done bodybuilding at a decent level all says the same thing. And I'm the same way. Like I played soccer through college and everything. Bodybuilding took more discipline. I know like that can sound strange because you're like, oh, well, there's so many more aspects to the game of football. It's like, or I should say soccer. Sometimes I go in and out of it because people always comment that I should be saying football.
That's funny.
But yeah, at the end of the day, like he said, you need to be locked 24 hours because you're going to get to a point where your hunger is at a level that is just consuming. And it's going to get to the point where you're like, okay, this really, really sucks, but I just kind of have to stick it out. And that will be a lot of times in bodybuilding rather than it being something where, oh yeah, you go into the gym, you work out for an hour, you leave, and you never have to think about it again. No, there is a very much 24/7 discipline aspect to it that you don't really find present in a lot of other sports. But all right. If social media, because we already talked about it, if social media disappeared entirely as a whole, right? Like obviously now, like you're all in. You're all in on your content.
Very much so.
Yeah, like building your brand. Let's say it goes away. What would be your next step?
Well, I'm in college right now. So, you know, I mean, I'm still going to stick it out anyway. But if social media completely went away, I think I've gained so much experience in general. I think I'd go get a sales job.
I agree.
I think that would be 100% the next thing I'd do. I love it as a whole. You know, I feel like social media again is a pretty much a sales job. You're selling yourself. You're communicating to an entire large audience. They need to buy into you. You need to give them value. All this different stuff. It very well ties into sales. Yeah, I just go work sales. I think I'd have a great time doing that.
I used to tell people when they would ask me what I did and I didn't want to get into stuff, I'd be like, I'm in sales.
Yeah.
because I'm like, that is what we're doing. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, whether it's our coaching, supplements, whatever else it is, we are salesmen.
Yeah.
And I've had people say before things kind of got to the level that they are now, where now it's self-sustaining, where you're still kind of grinding. Well, what if it doesn't work? Like, what do you do? I'm like, I go and I take all the experience that I have here and I throw it into getting a solid sales position and work my way up within a company.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd do.
All right. On the sales aspect, obviously you're young, but you have a coaching business.
Yeah.
That you've already started up. It's been going well. I want to ask from somebody who's not necessarily been in the coaching game for a super long time, but is starting to develop some of the experiences that coaches that have been in it for a long time have. What has coaching so far taught you that working with yourself hasn't?
I think it's really just tailoring different approaches to different people. I mean, that's the main thing. When it comes to me, I'm just like, all right, suck it up, dude. We're going.
Same.
Like, shut up. Like, I'm constantly, if I have even a thought like, I don't really want to do, shut up. Like, it's just like the first thing that comes in my head. But you cannot do that with most clients, you know? If they're like, oh, I don't really feel like going to the gym today. You can't tell them like, dude, shut up, just go, like you can't just do that. So finding different ways to go about that and be like, okay, why is this? Like, what is this stemming from? And really finding the root causes and working backwards to it's like, okay, we have this thought, we're maybe being a little bit inconsistent with plans and stuff. Where can we go from here in order to make it so you will feel more motivated, feel like you want to stick to something? Because that's a really big thing in my coaching in general is I want to build mindsets. I love all that stuff. And I feel like I've built a pretty decent mindset for myself. I mean, there's still so much more to grow, obviously. But, making sure that it's like a long-term sustainable thing for a lot of these people is my main goal. Making it so it's like they work with me for a few months and then they can go and take it for the rest of their life is a hugely important thing for me. And kind of tailoring my approach to it being like, okay, we're not feeling motivated. What's going on in our workouts? Why? Like, are we enjoying this? Are we enjoying the diet? What's going on with the food? Like all these different aspects, and just really, rather than just being like, all right, like come on. That's really the main thing that I've kind of learned a little bit more empathy in a sense from starting a coaching business.
100%. This is something my wife and I joke about a lot. I have had to learn empathy.
Yeah.
over the course of time, and not just in the coaching area, but just in general.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm this needs to be done. Do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it. Yeah, that is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, there's even been jokes online about the fact that like my taste buds are fried, right? And part of the reason for that is because I would just eat whatever I needed to in order to make my goals happen.
Yep. Same thing.
But it was like, what people mistaked for taste buds being fried was me just not caring.
Yes.
I was just, as long as it's gonna fit towards my overall goals, and that's what I'm gonna. I don't need it to taste amazing. I don't need it to be something that's going to be the most delectable thing ever. I'm just going to do it because it's fuel and it's going to help me in my performance.
This is so, I feel so seen right now because it's every time, whether it's my friends at school, I live with 4 other guys at school, or, parents coming in, or my comment section. Like I go live usually when I'm cooking and it's like, bro's really eating beef and rice again. And I'm like, yeah, it works. Like, I don't really care how it tastes. It's fueling me. It's for my goals. Like, I don't care. And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, how do you not? Like, it's getting me one step closer to my goals. I don't care about how it tastes. Like it's just getting me there. And just it's such a different mindset. Because again, like we've spoken about, I'm just all in or all out, and I'm not gonna go and not eat my beef and rice, which, you know, again, I've learned to enjoy. Once you do it for long enough, you just kind of enjoy it. But it's just like, oh, you know, how do you do that? Like, I just do. Like, I want this bad enough to where I'm going to eat whatever it takes to get me there. You know?
Right. And I think in our society of abundance, there's also a little bit of brain chemistry that comes into it, where what will happen is when somebody consistently eats things that are not the best, right? Heavily oiled, heavily high levels of sugar, stuff like that. What will happen is their brain actually will adapt to that, to the point where everything else tastes so bad that they don't even want to look at it.
Yeah.
And people will ask me, they say, well, how do you eat like the way that you do? How do you have this stuff and be okay with it? And I said, I know this is going to sound super unhelpful. It's like, but you just do it.
Yeah.
Until it gets to the point where it's a part of your lifestyle.
Yep.
And I know it's and when I'm dealing with people who are a bit newer to the area, I'm like, okay, well, we can make your food taste good. We can figure stuff out. We can do what we need to do. But I said, if you want to get to this point eventually, at some point, you just make the conscious decision that this is what I got to do.
Yes.
And if I need to season it and stuff like that, put some sauce on it in order to make it go down easier, so be it. But this is the stuff that's going to have you performing at your highest level.
Shout out G. Hughes barbecue sauce.
Yeah, G. Hughes is great. All right. Man, I feel like because I had a bunch of topics that I wanted to talk about, but I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them. But I did want to ask a couple more questions in regards to coaching. What is one thing, if you had to take a look at your overarching, because obviously you deal with clients from all different walks of life, what would you say is one thing that applies to every single person within your coaching?
One thing that applies to every single person.
Because we can talk about like the individual circumstances, but what's the thing that, or I should not even just necessarily one thing, but like things that just kind of, you know what, doesn't matter who I'm working with, this is something I'm going to implement with them.
Yeah, in terms of that, I really emphasize to not get so obsessed about the scale weight to every single one of my clients. I feel like that's something that people are really worried about constantly. And most of my clients, I say they come to me, and if any of my clients are watching this, like, stop worrying about it. I still have to tell you this. But it's like, okay, we need to get down to this goal weight. Like, they come to me and they're like, okay, I need to get down to this goal weight. I need to be losing X amount of pounds. And it's just like, relax. Like, sure. Of course, the scale is like, it's very valuable. And I want you like tracking your weight and stuff. But when it comes down to like actually being super hyper focused on it, when you're sending me your check-in pictures, I'm seeing you're getting leaner, but it's like, wait, we're not like 5 pounds down. What, like, you know, like we just gotta like calm down a little bit and stop worrying about the scale weight so much. And look at what we've done in the mirror. I send them like the pictures of the before and after. I'm like, look at this, you're leaner. Like, sure, you're not like at the body fat that you, or like the weight that you wanted to be, but we're literally lean, like we're looking so much better. And it's just that, like, not getting so wrapped up in the scale weight is definitely something I implement like with all my clients for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have my, I'll have my clients weigh in every single day. And then what I'll do is I'll tell them straight up, I'll say, that's actually not for you. Right? I'm like, that's for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, because what I'm doing is I'm taking a look and I'm analyzing long-term trends. They'll send me and then this is one of the ones that always makes me laugh. They'll send me a weight that'll be 3 pounds up from what it was the day before. I don't know what happened. And they'll start freaking out. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm like, did you eat what you were supposed to eat yesterday? Yeah. I'm like, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right. And then we just keep going. And I remember sometimes you have to have some hard conversations because there are some objective things with the scale that if it's not happening over longer periods, you kind of got to bring them back to reality a little bit. But I remember one guy that I was working with, his weight had stayed the same for 4 weeks. And we're supposed to be in a pretty hefty deficit. And I kept asking him, I'm like, and we'd been working together for a long time. So I trusted this guy more. I said, you're sure? 100%. Okay. Nothing. 100%. All right. Let's just wait it out. Week 5, he dropped 5 pounds. And then it was all like 185s. And then the following week, it was all 180s.
Yep.
And I was like, that is like, because I had not seen somebody hold for that long before.
Yeah.
And seeing that happen in real time and like us having those conversations was just super interesting.
Yeah, I've dealt with something very similar recently. Like one of my clients is getting ready for like some trip, and it's like, we need to get leaner. I'm like, let's just be patient. Like, we're still in a deficit. And like recently, it's just been like, bang, bang, bang. Like the weight has just been dropping so significantly, but just because we were patient. Like a lot of people are, again, just in this space, it's like with the delayed gratification stuff, not a lot of people have it. And that's one of the most important things as a whole is just like waiting it out.
Yeah, no, 100. I think delayed gratification is probably the thing that you learn the most if you want to be in the bodybuilding
Absolutely.
Because everybody wants to have the end product, but the steps are the thing that they really need to be focusing on. All right. I was planning on going over like a whole bunch of things science-based. We'll have to have you back on at some point in order to go over more of that stuff.
Definitely.
But I want to ask you, just to kind of close things out, obviously your time frame has been very accelerated. So it can be hard to look into the future because so much is happening right now. But what do you think 25-year-old Jacob says, all right, the next 5 years, this is successful and I've accomplished what I've wanted to accomplish through that time as a 20-year-old?
That's a great question. I do want to open physical striker training locations at one point.
Yeah?
I think that's like a big goal for me is I want to get like physical locations. I don't want to be like the one training everyone, but I want to have like trainers, you know, I think that's definitely a big goal for me is to have physical locations. You know, I want to have over 1 million followers for sure.
Yeah. That's going to be a given.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I want to look towards. And, you know, hopefully I got some cool cars.
Cool cars are always great.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jacob, I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
It's been good, and
it's
we'll
been
have to
great.
do it again.
Yes.
All right, guys. As always, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. TNF and
Jacob Oesthreicher.